Welcome back to Quarantine Apologetics, Defending the Faith While Under Lockdown. We are on our third episode, and I was debating what to do for this episode when a Muslim apologist, who I've had interaction with before, named Paul Williams, sent me a video he had made. And it's basically, and since then I knew I had to make this into today's episode of Quarantine Apologetics. So basically, it's the old Jesus taught the law, Paul said, screw the law. Now, it's a very simplistic dismissal that he does. He quotes some liberals like Raymond Brown and Fitzmyer and that crew. But it's basically, well, Jesus said follow the law. Paul said don't follow the law. And so then Paul is not in the Jesus tradition. And first of all, I do got to admit this is a complex topic, but if we're going to take this the shallow interpretation that Paul Williams has, we have to say that Jesus Christ himself didn't meet this criteria because he changed things in the law. He declared all meats clean. He changed the laws on divorce. He modified a verse in the Torah to outlaw polygamy. Instead of they shall become one flesh, he said the two will become one flesh. You can check the New Testament versus the Hebrew. He made that change. And so technically, by that rigid standard of Paul Williams, Jesus Christ doesn't even meet that standard. However, let's assume for the sake of argument that Paul Williams is correct about Paul, as in Paul the Apostle. Jesus said law, Paul said no law, or watered down law. If Paul Williams was consistent, Paul Williams is a Muslim, he would have to throw out Muhammad. Why? Well, Muhammad didn't follow the law either. Now, I know that Muslims have their own law, but it's not the same as the law that Jesus Christ talked about in Matthew chapter 5. It's not that law. Does Paul Williams keep the Sabbath? Does Paul Williams celebrate the Passover? Do Muslims circumcise kids on the 8th day? Do Muslims follow all the food laws of Leviticus 11? No, they don't. No. In fact, the fact that, now, the reason they can get away with this is there are a few artificial similarities between the two, like the circumcision, but it's not done on the 8th day. They don't eat pork, but they don't keep all the rest of the food laws, either, specifically in the book of Leviticus, chapter 11. And so then Muhammad is just as guilty as Paul is by Paul Williams standards. So in that case, he should throw out Muhammad because he's not following in the tradition of Jesus. So, but Paul Williams is not going to do that. And of course, I should point out Paul Williams and the Muslims out there don't follow the explicit commands of Jesus. They don't practice baptism, the Lord's Supper. Muhammad certainly didn't follow the what Jesus said in Matthew 19 on divorce and remarriage. Muhammad probably had worse sexual morals than King Henry VIII. I mean, Paul Williams is an Englishman, so he knows all about Henry VIII. And they don't. In fact, in the Sermon on the Mount, he gives the Lord's Prayer. When do the Muslims use the Lord's Prayer? They don't. Only Christians use that prayer. We use it every Sunday in church. Of course, church is canceled for the time being, so because of the quarantine. Hence, we have to do quarantine apologetics. But so Paul Williams, just let's assume that your objection is true. It's not, but let's assume it is. It disqualifies Muhammad as well. So I don't think it helps you to go there, Paul, and I recommend you come back to the Christianity that you abandoned. God bless.